And welcome back to Miniature Dragon Comic Review, coming to you live from Seattle, Washington, where Woody has left Alex and I alone to be on our own. So today is what we're going to call episode 57. We do what we want. Whatever, we do what we want. Alex, hi.
Hi, Doc.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I feel like I should be running up and down the halls with scissors since Woody's not here to supervise me.
Right, after all. What kind of shenanigans can we really get to?
Well, before we do that, couple of announcements. We are less than a month away from SummerCon, Washington SummerCon in Puyallup. You guys have graciously given me some of your space to bring down some of my wands, so you guys will see me there. I don't think we have booth numbers yet. I got to look into that. I haven't seen them yet. They haven't been announced that I've seen. And more than that, we are away from Jet City, where you guys can come down in Tacoma, I think it is. Yeah, Tacoma Convention Center.
That is correct.
And come down and say hi to me. And we'll see what happens there. We might do a booth share. We might have separate booths. We haven't got that far yet. Because my products have so little to them that you guys don't have to give me a ton of space, and I am going to try to have 30 wands done by then, which is turning out to be a way more difficult task than I originally thought. In woodworking, the one thing everybody forgets, I forget until you really get started with the project, is finishing a project. So to give you an example, I have an unfinished box here where you can see it's all wood grained, and there's an unfinished wand on the inside, where I have a finished box here, and you can see the difference where it is done and it's shiny and pretty, and I think I let it dry on the box. Let's see what happens here. I'm telling you guys, woodworking is terrible. You should not do it. You should just buy from consumers. I'm just kidding. I got it open. And on the inside is a finished wand, and you saw Alex held up his unfinished wand that I gave him.
Which is still awesome.
Yeah. So these are things like you don't think about it till you get started. So, but here we are. We're started. Let me put that top back on. I let them dry for 24 hours, but they must not have been dry. They were stuck to each other. But anyways,
wow.
You come down and see the finished ones. And in some of the pictures that you see going on, I actually got greedy and took over the entire picture format on Twitch. So you guys are seeing, if you're watching on Twitch, you're seeing this come through, along with I put my website on there too, because, hey, heck, it's my day, and this is what I do. We originally were supposed to do a comic book with Woody. Woody had a last-minute out-of-town thing. We're not just doing this from the seat of our pants just because. We're doing it because we're both very busy people, and with the time that Woody gave us, we both went, we don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Plus, it's fun to have Woody around for the comic books because he really gets into the histories and where they came about. He knows a little bit more about them than we both do, honestly, about the histories of these things. So we're just here for the good looks and the good voices, and that's what Alex and I bring to the show normally. But you wanted to talk a little bit about tabletop gaming, not just in comics, but in general. So I'm up for it. Let's do it. This is, by the way, we didn't plan this. Alex just mentioned it, and I was like, let's do it.
Well, it's like, out of the various shows, one of the things that started becoming a real theme towards, I want to say, probably around the 40s or such within our episodes, all three of us enjoy role-playing games. Obviously, I mean, with yourself, your DM Doc as one of your handles, and also you used to do Bros and Dragons, which was a podcast that was Dungeons and Dragons plus role-playing.
And you might see that up on the website too soon. I don't know. I'm starting to do things. Anyway.
Okay. And like, initially when myself and Woody first met each other, before all the comics and such, and before we lost contact and got back together, we actually role-played together. That's how we actually knew each other. And it was kind of one of those things of during his time in life, he was, interested in writing, but it wasn't the career type thing. It was more about like being a game master and crafting stories and things of that nature. And for me, it was like, oh, art's a cool thing. I couldn't make a career out of it, but I like role playing. So that's kind of like how part of our origin of like getting to know each other. And then life happened and we lost contact. And then years went on by and we re-met each other at a Comic-Con. And it was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to give art an actual try as a professional. And Woody was like just starting in the industry. So it was like this great re-meet of, two people that had a common interest, role playing, and, wanted to get into comics or into role playing itself, creating the things for it.
So both things. Is that why Woody, by the way, you can go to miniaturedragon.com, and I think Woody has finally got the playtest up for their cyber symbiosis stuff. So.
Oh yeah. So like, I want to say a good, probably more than quarter of the books that we've done have had inspiration from people that have made role-playing, or because of the role-playing campaigns has had direct influence on like part of the story. Like, for example, in Thunderfrog, Noadar actually comes from our mutual friend Jeff, and I'm not going to tell the secret of like what Noadar actually stands for, because it's a great story onto itself. And that's something that like I'm hoping that myself, Woody, and maybe if Jeff ever wants to like, go on to something like this, could actually engage and tell everybody. But it came from a role-playing game.
That's kind of neat. I liked it. We went around Emerald City Comic-Con asking creators about role-playing games, and there was a bunch off camera too. We didn't just film everybody we talked to, because some of the people we talked to, it was like really quick. Hey, how you doing? Hey, I have a really good question. And I found it interesting that, out of all the people we talked to, there were two that weren't big into role-playing games, and both of them were on video. Actually, It was pretty funny. That I think those were, there were two.
Lucas, I remember, Bill was one of them. The artist from
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, and Bill. Bill says not really in his. So, but everybody else seemed to be really like, it was really integral part of a lot of people's. And I'm not saying everybody. There's a lot of people out there that were like, yeah, I play role-playing games, but it really doesn't affect my comic book. Or I made comics and then I got into role-playing. And then, of course, Zoe made a movie, made a role-playing game, and then decided to make a comic book, and it went in that order. But it's super interesting to me on how much it's an integral part of this. And I've seen so many different kinds of role-playing people. I think it'd be funny one day just to do a video of the different kinds of players there are. But, you don't realize how big of how much it can help you in life, honestly, to role play in a role playing game, to have different interactions, or what would you do in different situations. Like if you were free, if no consequences happened to you as a person, how would you react to these things? And like I said, I think I mentioned in the past, 5e, D&D 5e is actually used by psychiatrists now to help kids with autism to learn.
Oh, really?
Yep, to learn to be more socially appropriate. And they use the interactions in that game with a little bit of therapy, and it's pretty cool. It's not straight up D&D. You don't have like total freedom. They play the game though, and they enjoy it. But they'll stop them like, "Oh, why would your character do that?" Or,
"Oh, that kind of reminds me of David from RPG Library." Mm-hmm. He was talking about a very similar thing within the criminal system of going in and, there's no dice, there's no pencils, there's nothing that you could do harm to another person with. But that role-playing thing of giving people the opportunity to, like, go through those social skills, be able to interact with each other, and learn through role playing of correct behavior.
It's interesting. They use it a lot. Well, they don't. So I'm a veteran. I'm wearing the hat, but it's because I'm having a bad hair day, not because I'm supporting this. Even though I do wholeheartedly support this, and I have not really got into it, which is funny because of my background and what I do. But veterans will get together and do RPG games, and it helps them with some of their PTSD issues and what are the things that they're going through. These games are so miraculous. I'm a big fan of non-dice games. There's a game out there, Dread, somebody invented, where you need a Jenga game to play.
Oh, I thought that was also part of Fate.
Fate is not Jenga. Fate it's dice, but they're different. I'm looking around because I thought I had them out. I don't. They're plus, minus, and blank. So.
Now I do remember Dread, because that sounded like a fantastic. What do I want to call it? Like something for Halloween or something to get really people into the spirit.
It is. It's a horror thing. So if you love horror, you should look into this. They don't sell the hard copies anymore, but the company itself has released the PDF for free, and you can pick it up on the internet anywhere you look. The two things they have in common, Dread and Fate, though, is that you build your characters together. Fate is a little bit more, all the players' characters have things that they have to do with each other. There's a bunch of connection things. But in in Dread, you do it. But when you're building your character, you're playing Jenga for certain things. So that beginning Jenga thing that never goes bad, it never falls down because you're taking the first couple out, that is just the setup for the game. Once the game starts going, then you have this unstable tower that you're playing with. And the cool thing about Dread is like the storyteller's telling the story, and like they'll ask you questions, you respond in character, and they say, "Oh, but I think this is going to happen," or you want to change something that's about to happen, like the horror monster is about to get you, and you're like, "I'm going to pull out my gun and shoot it." You have to take a Jenga piece out to succeed, and if the Jenga falls, your character dies.
Well, that's an interesting thing, because that makes it one aspect of, like how you've talked about within role-playing experiences, of you're sharing this story, you're sharing this experience. Oh, also, hey, Mighty R. So one of my friends from the art community has just popped on. Hey, Mighty R, how you doing, man?
Hey, hi, Mighty R. Oh, that's who you're having comments with on Facebook or on YouTube. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. So, this is all 21st century and all the joys of doing a live show. So there's been shenanigans, but thank you for definitely showing up, man.
So I don't know if it's still going on. I thought it was funny because you mentioned this tabletop thing, and then I started getting messages from my friends in the podcasting community that D&D Live 2019 happened today in LA. And originally, yesterday they were texting me and they're like, "Oh, I'm getting ready for D&D Live," and I live 3 miles from Wizards of the Coast main building. And I was like, "Hey, if you're in town, let's get lunch." And they're all like, "It's a long drive to Seattle from LA, but you know."
Oh. It's interesting that they didn't do. Isn't Renton that the headquarters is for Dungeons and Dragons?
Yep, right down the street from me. I don't live in Renton, but it is right there. I live on the border of a couple towns. But yeah, it's funny to me. I thought that's where it was, so I was really excited about that. But when it comes to it, though, like reading certain, what am I saying? Oh, reading comic books in this, because we do comics. Everybody's always like, "Oh, I'd love to have a D&D game like that." Or they try to reinvent D&D games, and I get it. 5e is great. It's very streamlined. It's very easy. But there might be systems that are better. Daniel Cozy, a friend of the show who did the graphics for the miniature dragon.
Oh, Doc, sorry. Hey, Tina. It's great having you on. She's a amazing artist. Tina D. Yeah. If I'm tongue-tied, It's only because that's just normal of me. Um, yeah, this is Alexius Poorman, the creator of Kyujin comic art. And Tina is, yeah, so amazing. Like, Doc, if you get a chance, definitely check out her work. I'll give you the link. So
Cool.
sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. It's funny to me that you're so excited, though. This is the first time we put Alex really in the driver's seat of something different, and I think he's getting a kick out of it. But there's so many other tabletop role-playing games that might meet the criteria. Dread is a great one-shot scary game, but if you really want a good, scary, long game, Call of Cthulhu is awesome. And I think they're just thinking about coming out with their 6th edition. 5th edition came out not too long ago. Also, Vampire the Masquerade just did a reboot and is on their 5th edition. These are all really cool things. And I see that when I'm reading comic books. Now you guys got me. I never read comic books before. I had very little comic book experience before I met you guys. But now I'll go to the comic book section in like Barnes and Nobles when I'm there, and I start flipping through. And it's funny to me because I'm like, oh, I could see this as a Fate game, or I could see this as, Call of Cthulhu, which is a 2D10 system, and all this other stuff. It's funny to me on how much comic books and tabletops relate that way. And there's a lot of comic books that don't. They have different role-playing games. But outside of comic books, and this is the point I was initially trying to get to before I went on my little rabbit trail, comic or tabletop role-playing games really brings out a creative side of people. Even if you think you don't have one, it'll come out, and you might feel a little uncomfortable the first couple of times. But Alex and I have been sitting in games together with people who have never really role-played at all, and when they get into it, it's a totally different game. And they're almost shy about it. Even if they're not shy people, they're like, oh yeah, I tried a little bit.
Well, like one of the group members that we have, Josh, I want to say like that guy has really shined, and he's new to role-playing. And also, I do want to mention for the people that are watching, normally it's myself, Doc, and Woody, 3 of us that talk about comic books, but because Woody's not here, and myself and Doc are Dungeons and Dragon nerds, we're having a good opportunity to talk not only about comic books, personal experiences, and also how tabletop role-playing has definitely influenced both of us. To make an abridged version of,
and we're both artists. Come on, now that I found out my wand is actually art.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, it's Doc Juan Emporium that you have your that's the name of your website and your YouTube?
Doc's Wand Emporium.
Oh, okay.
Which you could just jump on docswands.com. I'm sure I have a link somewhere. If I don't, I'll get you one. I only have a few videos on there right now. I will expand. But woodworking really is art if it's done right. If you're not just cutting pieces of wood, putting them together to build like really basic furniture, it is art. I love that you're reading. I love this so much. We've got to teach you some little quick tricks so that your eyes aren't dragging across the screen.
Yes, I am quite bad about, HDA squirrel.
Squirrel.
Yes, as I'm reading the comments while trying to engage with you, Doc. Sorry.
I'm just watching you read them because I have you on my screen. You're just right there because Woody's not here. Usually it's a split screen, and I can just see your face as I'm watching.
Yeah, and the best part is, like, once again, as much as I've been, like, trying to self-learn a lot of the stuff on OBS, it seems like every time that try something different or new, it just has some sort of glitch or feature that just, like, straight up just doesn't work. Listen, so that's why I have default little drawings of everybody.
You'll never be an expert, Alex, if you don't mess up a bunch and then fix it.
Well, I'm doing the messing up. I just need to do the fixing.
Yeah. So
and Tina, Yes, we do. Myself and Woody, which is the individual that's not here, make comic books.
I just help with the digital stuff. And not the digital comic book, like this. I mean, before we get rolling, Alex, have you ever read, what's your favorite RPG comic book? Besides Cyber Symbiosis. You're not allowed to use that one. You're
Right. I kind of figure that, so Cyber Symbiosis is one of our titles. I actually really enjoyed Warhammer 40K, that comic book.
The one we reviewed?
The comic that we did?
Yeah.
The review? Well, it's like, it has an in-depth lore. It had, I thought, pretty well written for, like, you know, the issue that we did review. And the art was a pretty enjoyable style of, you know, some parts were really out there, and then there was other parts that were just, enjoyable to me, at least.
So Warhammer to me is actually pretty incredible, and I'll tell you why. It's always intrigued me. So I'm a pen and paper tabletop role playing guy. I know enough about 40K that, like, if I go to a game store and there's an army there, I can play. However, I am very surprised that that particular game has such in-depth lore. Some of the best books I've ever read were Warhammer books, so on and so forth. It's not your typical books upon books upon books of different lore and stuff happening, like a pen and paper game would be, where it gets enthralling. It really is just a miniature war game that has an extreme amount of lore and just amazing amounts of material that are out there that aren't really part of the game in books and other things. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's miniatures, and there's instructions. There's a core book on instructions, but there's not a core book where you pick your race and you pick your species and you roll your dice, and then you have to create this backstory for yourself. You could sit down with an army and play without a backstory.
Right. It's kind of the difference of, like, it's a very mechanical thing versus, like, in role-playing or tabletop, I should say, you make a character and you're almost like an actor in a free-form style that is making the story with a storyteller, a game master, that allows you to have enough rules to basically make it still a game, but also interesting because fail or succeed, it allows the development of a story. And through dice, Jenga pieces, cards, whatever that they might be.
Seriously, miniatures, like the X-Wing game. I would consider that a tabletop game. You're reading again, I can tell.
I need to be less noticeable, I suppose, Doc.
I can see you. I know that you have pictures on your side, but if you're on Twitch, and by the way, everybody watching on YouTube, you can go to Twitch and see Alex and his eyes and stuff. I've got it on there. That's twitch.tv/MD Comics. They're going to switch over just to see you. Like, you gotta find a way to make it not so
blatant enough, like
pretty blatant. Yeah. It's just funny to me that there's just all these plethoras of tabletop games, and even some board games have got there. My wife, for Christmas, who's not a tabletop role player game,
the Harry Potter one,
got the Harry Potter card building game, which I thought was kind of weird because she asked for specifically the card building game. And so I bought her that, and I got her the expansion because we do game nights with friends over here all the time. So, you know, it was good just to have another game around. Even if she wasn't that big, we had this whole thing we could do. She loves that game. She is so into that game, but she's not role playing. And I wouldn't expect that from my wife. She's not that kind of game person. But it's remarkable to me that she can look at a game that's almost not a board game. You know what I mean? It's not your Monopoly. It's not even like Mysterium. It's a card deck building game that you play with everybody else trying to defeat the cards that are on the table. It's really well done. I do highly recommend it, even though they're not sponsoring us. But hey, if you guys want to throw some money our way, just let me know. I like everything from that. I'm a big gamer. I like anything from that down to pen and paper D&D. Like, no electronics, even, because I gave this comment in our last game. Alex plays in it. I need everybody. I understand that you guys are using your tablets, cell phones, whatever. I look funny right now. I got a busted lip. These tablets and cell phones at the table, but sometimes as the storyteller, I want to see your sheets for whatever reason. I just want to take a look at them. And I told everybody, I don't care if you're using it, but please have sheets. I also make fun of everybody because I'm like, well, what's your 2-hit with a spell? And they'll be like, hold on. I'm like, if you had sheets, you would have seen it by now. So it's funny to me. I asked you. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of funny, Tina, I take it you just got onto Twitch because she said, nice beard, Alex.
There you go. She might have, or she's just seeing it from your drawing.
Oh, fair enough.
I will tell you right now, if you're a big tabletop gamer and you're getting into comics, highly recommend you pick up Rat Queens. And it doesn't matter where you start. It's the feel. I can't find another comic that feels more like the tabletop games that I've experienced in 20, 30 something years of playing tabletop games, that really just grab the essence of it and have an awesome story that brings you over to the comic book realm as well. I can't think of a comic that's more role-playing game than Rat Queens is. And in it, if you go long enough, people die, things happen. Like you said, tabletop role-playing games, I should say the pen and paper, the ones you guys sit around and create characters with, those games you guys are all writing a book. The game master, dungeon master, storyteller, whatever you want to call them, is the narrator, and everybody plays a character in it. And I'm very proud of a lot of my games. I don't kid glove and I don't lie about my roles, and people have died. In the game that Alex is in, they're just about to hit level 6. I want to say I've had 4, 5, 6, 7 characters die.
Yeah, but it gives it a certain level of interest because it feels like, the decision making, the level of threat actually gives it a level of an excitement, because it's, if death didn't have any consequence, then it would just be like, oh, okay, get to the save point, and just continue, versus, like for example, Mighty R, you were saying that you played Resident Evil. It's the difference of get to a save point or like reload versus, your character when it's dead. Now you play a different character in that game.
And me as a storyteller, I don't want your characters to die. I want to build on the backstory. I want to watch your characters change. As somebody who's
the
vested,
thread does make it kind of like more reason to for us to try to do smart things, even though sometimes the group doesn't.
No. And I'm kind of getting there, but I don't want to see it. You guys don't want your characters to die. But if you don't have that essence where their consequences don't come to play, Dungeons and Dragons probably not the game for you. Fate is a very low consequence game. I would recommend that one highly if you're worried about that. You want to have a character and have a story, a long growing story. I would do that.
I still want to play Fate with you running it.
We should. I mean, we could get together, do something on the channel. We should get a bunch of. I wonder if there's any local improv actors that would want to play Fate with us.
Maybe some of the people from Zombie Orpheus Entertainment,
or them.
But
yeah. I'm not playing their game because that'd be cheating. They know that game. I'm just saying there's a lot out there, just like there's a lot of comic books. Everything has its presence, and I recommend wholeheartedly that you try some of these other games out. Some of them are more mechanical, and as a numbers nerd, I love those games. But if I want to play an RPG game, I'm going to go more towards the storytelling ones. I still have to crack open Endless Realms. I have to admit that. We're at the end of the show. Usually we ask each other, what our favorite thing was, blah, blah, breakdown of the comic book. But why don't we just do real quick plugs? Alex, what do you got going
on? So today I just had two things of awesomeness. One, I got another video for Kyujin comic art. And also on that channel, I just broke 100 subscribers. So, and once again, I want to definitely say, thank you, Tina, and thank you, One Mighty R. It's like you guys are part of the community and just awesome parts of it, and help me within it.
I'll get more art out there, but you can always go to docswands.com, look around. I actually do some blogging stuff about my woodworking, and it's not necessarily what you'd think. I try to open my heart a little bit. I grew up where you didn't do that, so I just want people that are getting into it to understand that if you hit these roadblocks, everybody's going through them, and I wanted you to see it. But for now, I will say, as I always say, please read more comics, keep it nerdy, and live your dreams.
And just going to say, and time to end the stream.